Hi, I'm Rob Harper, and welcome to Office Chat, where we discuss trending and current events taking place in the office. Our topic today is returning to the office post-COVID-19. My guest today is Dr. Christa Washington, a teaching fellow with Oxford Roundtable and an associate professor at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Also joining me is Dr. Joshua Spodek, a three-time TEDx speaker and best-selling author of Leadership Step by Step. He's also the host of the Joshua Spodek Show. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
So doctors, let's just dive right into it. For the better part of 6 months, people have been working from home because of COVID-19, the deadly virus that has, at this point, taken almost 200,000 lives. Now it seems that offices are opening up and companies are trying to entice, and in some cases demanding, that people return to work. Of course, there is a lot of great trepidation in doing so because we really don't have a clear understanding as to how this virus is contracted, what can happen. We know that people are being told to wear masks, but we're not here to debate or discuss the health issues as much as what people should or shouldn't do, but more so the reservations that many people will have when they are returning to work, and what companies, I guess, could do to, match synergies with people being out of the office and those coming to work. What are you hearing out there? Either one of you.
Well, it's not happening all at once.
I'm hearing quite a few different stories.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Washington.
I'm hearing a couple of different stories. One, I'm hearing where companies are actually polling their workers to determine where they want to stay in terms of their work environment. Do they want to continue to work remote? Do they want to come into the office a couple of days out of the week? So there's that option of flexibility. And then I'm hearing the option of we have a set for one. And that option I'm hearing anxiety, emotional stress that comes along with that. So I think there are two different narratives that are happening right now.
Okay. Dr. Spodek.
So people have been coming back in. It's not all happening at once. People have been going back in, and some people were essential workers that could never stop going in. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I see is that people are both, on the emotion side, people are nervous. There's a lot of unexpectedness.
Right.
And then on the side of the people who bring people in, a lot of people feel like we have to have all the answers. And despite knowing that no one knows all the answers. And I think it's something that they can handle. Well, I'd like to separate management from leadership. In terms of managing the problem, there are experts out there, or at least people who know as more than the average CEO. That is something that you can get. There's no shame at all in getting expert advice from people who have studied this. As for handling people's emotions, that's something that you cannot outsource. That's something you have to, a leader can step up, not have all the answers, not say I'm perfect, but to model behavior, model emotional behavior, and to let people know that they've been heard, to let people, especially to repeat back, to voice their concerns so that they know that they're at least listened to. Because we can't say this, we can't say that we know everything about the virus. No one does. Right. It's less than a year old.
Right.
But we can handle people through challenging times. If we knew all the answers, we wouldn't need leadership. We don't have all the answers. That's what leaders are for.
Right. Right. And Dr. Washington, you mentioned the flexibility, having some work from home and then some return to the office. What are the synergies that can be gained from that? If there are staff members who are saying, I just don't want to come back, I don't feel comfortable.
Well, I think certainly a part of managing and leading this return to the office will require some intentionality on the emotional piece. One of the things that's important is for leaders to talk about their own vulnerability with this new beginning, because it's a new beginning. It's not going to go back to the old old normal. So I think they have to be honest and approach it as a new beginning. And that lets people understand that, hey, I don't know everything. We're going to be trying some new things. And along the way, we're going to be asking for your input. Another thing that I think will be helpful in developing that synergy is if you are bringing people back in, so many people are zoomed out, that Zoom has become so popular. I think it would be a good idea to have some check-in meetings. And what I mean by that, the team meetings, you can divide your employees into teams or groups and have these meetings to check in, to get an emotional pulse, and to get any ideas or suggestions, because as leaders, we do look to those who we're leading to also guide our process. So being open about there's going to be some things that look different, and they're not all going to happen at one time, but we also want to make sure you're okay in this process will be helpful in developing that synergy.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Spodek, as far as taking the lead in doing this, what would you recommend, or how would you recommend that leaders or the managers go about taking that initiative?
Well, there's no right answer. There's no one size fits all answer for everything. It's going to be very different situations. Certainly involve people and processes that involve them. So unilateral decisions are going to be difficult for people to swallow. Involving them, listening to, getting what concerns matter differently to everyone. This is in the realm of conflict management. There are going to be people with different values. People who have children are going to take it one way, people who are older versus younger.
Right. Different
people are affected in different ways. If you try to push it down on them, you're probably not going to get it right for many people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this sort of thing where you can say, this is the sort of thing we got to take in stride. There are many parts of this that you have to turn and face. This problem is something we have to deal with, and we may have to put some other things to the side to handle. How are we going to handle meetings in person? How are we going to handle different people coming in on different days? Things like that. Face it direct on with the people involved and say, this is a conflict we have to resolve. We have different values or different interests involved here. How can we get together and make this work as best we can?
Right.
Knowing that no one has ever done this before. Mm-hmm. And I hope that helps take the pressure off, feeling like you have to have all the answers.
So it sounds as if though both of you are saying that in the midst of this crisis, there's definitely a win-win for both sides, as there could be new opportunities that businesses could create or model the workforce or their staffing. Would you agree? Dr. Washington?
Yeah. Well, I think so. When there's a new beginning, what things will be most important to focus on initially, because there will be a lot of changes that will come, and some changes will come as a result of things that you try out initially and things that may not have been thought about initially. So I think it will be important to really practice good emotional intelligence, having a sense of awareness of what's happening within the company culture, as well as what's happening in the world and around, because a lot of decisions sometimes are impacted directly or indirectly. So you have to be cognizant of what's going to be most important to tackle first and make your first next best step. Right. And then I think based on your sense of what's happening, I want to put in here is your morals and values will lead you, will be the best things to do in order to take care of your employees. I can't stress that taking care of your employees is critical.
Now, Dr. Washington, I've got to say that you're making some really good points, and unfortunately we're having technical difficulties. So if you could just bear with me, just repeat what you were saying about the new beginnings, because I think that's really important, how companies do approach this when individuals do start to come back to work, and as well as taking care of staff members. So if you could just repeat that again, what you were saying about the new beginnings and the opportunities that will come out of this. Dr. Spodek, could you opine?
Yeah, I'm talking about role modeling for, and she was too, talking about being a role model for your employees. it's also, I presume I'm speaking to people like CEOs, or actually it could be someone who wants to take a leadership role even despite not having authority. Whoever is the most calm, whoever is the most listening to others, people come to that person. It's useful for them to have role models also. There are people the ones that I've been working with my clients on modeling are people like Churchill. Now, this is not a World War II situation, but
Right.
he didn't come in and say, this is going to be easy, we're just going to win. He said, this is going to be hard, this is going to be difficult. We got a lot of challenges ahead of us. He didn't lie about it, nor did he say he knew exactly what was going to happen. There was a lot of unknown left. You can think of Lincoln or others or JFK, who led people through challenges. These can be role models for you as well. It's not having all the answers, but it is being clear, and it is saying what you don't know. That is often a sign of strength.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Dr. Washington, we lost you for a few minutes there. So I was saying, if you could just repeat what you were saying about the new beginnings and investing in staff and taking care of staff throughout this process.
Sure, I think that's going to be critical, as it is a new beginning, and people have a lot of reservations and hesitations, and there's anxiety, and the emotional piece is important to address. And a part of that will require leaders to exhibit high emotional intelligence, being aware of their own emotions as well as those of their employees, and making sure that they know that their employees' best interest is being held at heart when making decisions. And a part of those decisions certainly need to be ethical decisions, because I think ethical decisions allow leaders to rely on their own personal morals and values, and not so much on what it is I want to do. But when you rely on morals and values for the greater good, it will allow you to make good choices for the next right step. And in doing that, it's important that result of those decisions.
So it seems as if they're also relying on the company's moral values, their mission statements, what they're doing, putting their employees first. And we know a lot of companies say that, but I think now, in which you to agree that this is a moment of truth as to, is the company living by those values and mission statements that they have tried to, or they emphasize to the staff. Now it's that moment of truth that now it's like put up or shut up almost. Would you both agree?
Well, there's a challenge when there's not a crisis, when it's not a difficult time. You can list your values and say, we support family, we support our employees, we support our customers. When you get into a crisis situation, oftentimes the values will conflict, and you can't meet one without not meeting another. That's really hard. It's if you want to respect employees' families, but you also want them in at work, or you respect the customer, how do we resolve when we have conflicting values, both of which we value?
Right.
There's no hard answer to that. I think that you have to involve the people in the process, and let them know, I want to hear what you have to say, and we will work with you as best we can. It might not go your way this time. It may go your way the next time, but we're a team. It might not go my way this time. It might not go my way the next time. It's not that we don't want that we give up on our values. It's when our own values conflict with each other. There's no easy way out of that. But teams, it happens all the time.
And that seems as though that sounds, it goes back to what Dr. Washington was saying about the check-ins with staff members to find out, what's happening, how are we doing, what are we doing, what can we do best in your eyes? Would you agree, Dr. Washington? When you say check-ins, is that one of the check-in points that companies could create?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when you're being transparent, you allow for input, and when people feel that they are in a safe environment to truly share their authentic concerns and themselves, I think you will get the most out of people and some great ideas. One of the things, a part of the check-in, I think that's going to be important is leaders are going to have to really be okay with being nimble and flexible. in some regards. And I recognize it can't go that way for everything, but some things there's going to be a need to be nimble and flexible to navigate these waters because they're new. We have not experienced this, and that's what presents such a great challenge.
Right. And then Dr. Spodek, something that you had mentioned going back to the values and not necessarily who's winning, who's losing, but as you said, sometimes the companies may not always be able to, I guess, address or fulfill, that's a better word, fulfill the needs that some of the staffers might want, but it's a matter in packaging and how you're telling it. It didn't go your way this time, but maybe next time. How do you get that message out there? Because a lot of times staffers are saying, but you said this, you said you supported this, and now at that moment of truth, it's not happening. How do managers or leaders, how do they lead through those types of situations? What would you recommend? Again, it's a hypothetical and every situation might be different, but just a general example, what would you say that companies could do?
I mean, since you mentioned an example, a client of mine, he's a founder, he's got several employees who have formed kind of teams, and a couple of them work together more and one of them works separately. And it's been exacerbated by the pandemic because the work habits are even more unusual than before. In his case, he had to get all three of them together at once. That's what worked for him. He either took them, no, I think he just one night ordered a dinner in, scheduled a time when they could all be there and said, it's on the house, but let's get talking about these things. And he got all three of them together in a way that they hadn't done before. Now, is that going to be possible for a lot of places? I'm not sure, because getting everyone in the same room might be a difficult thing.
Right. And now, especially with everyone being on Zoom, remotely, so you can't get everyone together. And if you do, that's going to also create a situation whereby people will say, well, I don't know if I want to be in the same room with this person. I want the 6 feet distancing, social distancing. So there are all these challenges, but go ahead, continue with your example.
So yeah, that's, I would describe what you're talking about as tactical. The strategy would be to get the communication open, to behave and communicate in ways to make sure that they feel comfortable, knowing that if they share something that makes them feel vulnerable, they're nervous, they're scared, they're not sure what's going to happen next, they're afraid for the job, something like that,
right,
that you will support them on that. You'll listen to them. Very effective thing is to repeat back to them, let me make sure I understood you right. Is this what you said? And so the best you can do is take those things into account. You can't always do what everybody wants,
right,
but you can at least let them know that you've heard them. That counts for a lot.
So just in listening to what you're both saying, another key factor here is open communication. You won't be able to satisfy everyone, but if they feel that you're listening and listening truthfully to what they're saying and planning on somehow, getting back to them, we couldn't do this, but we did this. How crucial is that, having that open dialogue when people are coming back to work, making companies making themselves or someone, at that management level available to hear the concerns of the staffers? Dr. Spodek.
It's critical. I mean, at a time like this, it's always critical. In my experience, the duration of a team, how long a relationship lasts, is how well its members manage conflict. Conflict is a given. People always have different interests. Even if you can't meet the interests, you can always at least hear the interests. And the more interests that you hear, the more you can get them to work together. If people haven't shared something that's important to them, you can't act on it. But if they've at least shared it, they know that it was taken into account.
And Dr. Washington, what is your response? What do you say about the communication?
Oh, certainly it must be, it's two-sided. And those who, they need to feel comfortable to be vulnerable in expressing their concerns.
Right.
Those two can align at some level, or there's some common ground. I think you can begin to make decisions that's going to be in the best interest for the greater good of the company and for the employees.
Right. Well, this information has been very valuable. I'm glad that you guys agreed to come on today to discuss it. Before we close out, is there any words of advice or key things that you would recommend that companies should look at, words of wisdom? What's something that you would want someone who's listening to this to walk away to carry with them and think about? Dr. Washington.
I think my words of wisdom would be self-care. It's going to be important for individuals, and that's for the leaders included. Sometimes leaders, you know, you're always on, but you have to check in with yourself as well in order to be healthy and of good sound mind to go forward. So that will be critical, and to pay attention to good, solid information, sound facts in making decisions.
Okay. Dr. Spodek?
Yeah, I want to note that we're here talking very calmly and somewhat abstractly. I hope that that rubs off on people, that they're able to be that way also with their employees. You're going to be in the mud. It's going to be hard.
Right.
I mean, hopefully people listening to this, what we say works, and they go in and people openly share and they're able to resolve the conflicts and things work out. More likely, there's going to be a few people who get really annoyed. They're not going to talk to you. They're going to hold back. They're going to yell at each other. It's going to happen, and it will pass. You'll get through it. It will be challenging. It's not easy. But, you know, as soon we will make it through this. So I don't want people to think that because we're here calm. Hopefully you can do this for others, that you will present a calmness, but you're going to be in the mud. It's going to be hard.
Right.
And that's fine. And that's not that it's fine, but it's part of why you're there.
Exactly. Well, thank you both. And you've been listening to Office Chat. Rob Harper, your moderator. I want to thank my guests, Dr. Spodek and Dr. Washington. If someone who's listening to this want to reach out to either one of you, are you available for consultations?
Yes, I am.
Yes, everything's at joshuaspodek.com.
Okay. And Dr. Washington?
I can be reached at cewashington@me.com.
Okay. And as always, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I can definitely connect you with Dr. Washington or Dr. Spodek. Thank you for listening, and we'll be coming to you again soon. If you have any questions or something that you would like for us to cover, please feel free to DM me and we'll cover it. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.